congratulations on Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. I saw the film yesterday, and I think it's a milestone performance by you. So tell me, in an emotionally challenged role like this, how mentally tough was your journey, and what kept you grounded throughout?
I think what kept me grounded was that I'm a mom myself. So obviously my daughter kept me grounded because I had no choice but to go back to her in extreme normalcy. But of course, it gets emotionally difficult because you're playing a character um, where her life is inspired by a true event and that person has lived this. So it's not really just a story, it's a story that has actually happened in actuality. And a woman, a mother, has gone through the pain of separation from her kids for nearly 2.5, 3 years. So it was a huge responsibility for me to portray her character and her journey
Yeah.
because only a mother can understand mother's love, her determination, her fight, her strength, and her
Mhm.
never giving up attitude that she fought her own husband, she fought her country, she
Yeah.
fought in her own country because she believed that she wasn't wrong and she wanted her kids back at any cost. So
Mhm.
I think that was something that I believe is something that kept me emotionally strong because I was like, imagine what this woman has gone through. And I need to portray her to the best of my ability in the film.
Which you did. I mean, it was
It is
intense.
important for the audience to understand what she might have gone through.
For sure. Oh, absolutely. And I think if we trace your roles as well, I mean, from Raja Kyagi Bharat to No One Killed Jessica, and now obviously this film, Mr. Chatterjee versus Norway, you've always, in a way, through commercial mainstream films, you've always played a character who seeks justice, who's never really backed down. What has driven this fire within you as an artist to pursue roles like this?
I think because I think when you are born a daughter, a girl, you're already born with that fire, from like within.
I agree. I agree.
And I think, watching my mom while I was growing up, to see her struggle through her life experiences and through her life, I think it's taught me life lessons for lifelong. It's not only my mom, my dad as well. So I think those are things that as children we kind of pick up from our parents and we see their strength and we see how they battle out every day without, telling their children how they are battling it out. And I think for me, it's very important to portray Indian women characters beautifully for a global audience because I truly believe that Indian women are truly special. And I would like to portray Indian women in all their might and glory. And through these characters, I get an opportunity to play these different roles because in my lifetime, I can only be Rani, right?
Of
That's the role I'm here to play. But through my characters, I get to play so many different characters and so many different girls.
Yeah, to only be Rani, but I mean that's the best thing ever. I mean, I think when I was watching your performance as well, Rani ma'am, I think it really took me back to to the olden days of where we saw Madhavi Mukherjee in Satyajit Ray films, or even Sridevi ji in a lot of her roles. What was I mean, who would you say has been your inspiration when it comes to acting, actually, and even for Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, perhaps?
So for me, my inspiration for Devika's character was definitely my mom because she's the closest Bengali I know, Bengali mother who is raised in West Bengal. So there is a certain way that Bengalis are from West Bengal. They have a typical way of talking. They have a typical way of being Bengali in the world. They're very proud of where they come from. They're very
Yeah,
connected to
true.
their roots. And when they speak Hindi or English, they sound Bengali. And my mother's been married to my dad for the last 50 years, but she was married when she was 20. But what she imbibed in those 20 years in Calcutta has not left her yet. So she is
Mhm.
Krishna Roy and not Krishna Mukherjee till today.
Oh,
So,
amazing.
so she is her own person, and I think that is beautiful about her because she's not living to prove to anybody how well read she is or how well spoken she is. Because I think people confuse being educated to being really a good linguistic person. You
Truth.
know,
I agree. Yes.
people
Yes.
kind of get confused that, oh my God, if the character is educated, why wouldn't she know how to speak English or Hindi? And what I need to tell these people, the ignorant people, that
Mm.
when you come from a state, you study in that particular language. You
Yeah.
are doing MA, you are passing BA, but you are in that particular language, and you might
Mm.
have difficulty in speaking some other language, but that doesn't make you uneducated or
Mm.
less cooler. You know,
Mm.
by
Mm.
speaking another language which is not your own, like English, doesn't make you cool or doesn't tell you that you're educated by just knowing how to speak in English. There are
100%.
so many
Yes.
people abroad who study in their language and they're very comfortable speaking their language.
Oh,
And
very
nobody
true.
questions people there that, oh my God, if you're educated, why don't you know how to speak English? Developing language skills is a different scenario altogether. So with my portrayal of Devika, what I wanted to portray was a very authentic Bengali girl who's born and brought up in West Bengal, and
Mm.
she goes to
Mm.
Norway and she doesn't leave her connection to what she's come from her roots, her Bengali roots. And she embraces her own culture and is trying to make it in Norway and to learn the ropes of Norway, but she's not fully there. She's just a housewife and she's
Mm.
trying very hard to be and to adapt.
Sure.
But
Yeah, and I'm really glad. I'm so sorry to cut you off because I think this is a very interesting point you've made here. And I think for me, this Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, of course, it's a very formidable story, but also it's a very pro-Indian story as well. I mean, often people say कि हमें विदेश जाना है, वहां पर घर बसाना है. I'm just like, no, listen, I live in London. Trust me, you're better off in India.
but that is what I'm so happy that the conversation, because of this film, has started. Where I've always seen that when we talk about our friends and relatives who live abroad, there's always a very rosy picture made about living abroad. Nobody ever thinks of the challenges that you guys must be facing day in and day out, and especially raising your kids. Because trying to be Indian, trying to still be connected to your roots by still embracing somebody else's culture, somebody else's lifestyle, somebody else's way of living in another country becomes so difficult. And with this film, these conversations have started that it's okay to be in your own country and be the first citizens of where you are, rather than being in another country and not getting the same kind of importance that you would deserve and you would get in your own country. So I
Yeah,
think there are a lot of conversations that have started because of the film, and I'm really happy because we normally discount the fact as to how you guys actually live your lives there,
yeah,
and it's a constant struggle every day. Because in
yeah,
India we have help, but you guys have to work, go back home, clean, cook, take
yeah.
care of your grocery, your laundry, and if you're a mother raising children there, you raise your children, you go out there and work, and you still have to do duties of making sure that your house looks good, clean, and do everything else. So with Devika's character also, she is expected to do so much in spite of being a new mom.
Yeah.
Nobody even is checking whether she's going through postpartum depression. There's
Yeah.
nothing really counts. They're just expecting her to, make her room look clean and tidy and take care of her children and just do that well. But that's a lot,
And
in
you
a foreign
and
country without help.
absolutely.
The last
And
question,
you
please.
Yeah, and I must tell you, your acting is incredible. There's this one scene where the mother-in-law is nagging, and you literally go into the. I was like, that scene. I'm not going to reveal it for the viewers who still need to watch the film, but it was amazing. But on a last question, Rani, ma'am, God, I could talk to you for hours on end. But you've been a huge star, and you've worked in this industry for decades. I've had the pleasure of growing up and watching you in so many amazing films. But at this point in your character career,
Yeah.
how confident do you kind of feel, I guess, in taking risks with characters and projects, especially?
So that's a very interesting question. Normally, I don't think, or I would say, I don't overthink it. Because for me, when I get connected to a story or a character, like for me, when I heard the story of Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, this story came to me in early Jan in 2021 when we were in the middle of the pandemic. You know,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
was a very, very difficult time where we all were coping with this new virus that had hit our civilization, and we've all groping and coping and trying to sanitize the hell out of all the things that existed normally next to us. And in the middle of that, I got the offer to play a role like this character. And when the director, who I personally know, Nikhil, told me that, Rani, there's a film that I would like you to do, and it's based on a true story. And this is what happened to an immigrant Indian family, predominantly a Bengali family in Norway, and the kids were taken away because of cultural differences, like her feeding her children with her hands and her putting kala tika and this. And I actually did not believe him, because it was so bizarre for me as an Indian to listen to something like that. And I was confused that why would anybody take their children away if it is these criteria. Normally, you would think that children would go to foster care because the parents are not well-to-do, or they're not mentally all there, or they are abusive parents, or they are, in drug addiction or something. There's a reason why children go to foster care. But here, without any reason, why would they confiscate the children? And that got me thinking, and I didn't believe him, honestly. And I hung up and I went through Google and I searched for this case. And what baffled me even further was the fact that it was a very recent case that happened in 2011.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm a citizen of my country, and the Indian media had predominantly covered this case so extensively around 2011. And all the major media houses covered this case. There was chatter about this in the parliament. There was Indian government involved. And I was feeling rather squirmish to think that, what was I doing in 2011 and how did I miss this case? And like me, there were so many other people who've not heard about this case. So what triggered me at that point was that this is a story that needs to be told. This is a story of a mother that needs to be spoken about, so that more and more families get protected. Because if there's more awareness, there'll be more protection. Or stuff like this. So for me, it was an immediate yes in my head, because I couldn't sleep in the night thinking about this ordeal that this woman had to go through. So for me, it was a no-brainer. So at that point, I wasn't really thinking of box office or whether it's going to be a risk for me to do the film.
True.
That wasn't in my mind. In my mind, it was only one thing, that I can't disconnect myself from this character. I can't disconnect from the story. I can't disconnect from this injustice. And as an actor, this is the only platform I have through my films to raise awareness.
And so you have. But look, Rani Mukerji, ma'am, it's been such a pleasure to have you on Filme Shilmy. Always so wonderful to chat with you. Enjoyed our chat a few years back as well for Bunty Aur Babbi. So it was so good to finally
just pray that we chat after the success of this film. That'll be amazing.
Definitely, for sure. Pakka. And you have to come to London soon.
Sure. Bye.
Wonderful. Right. Bye-bye. Thank you.